Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the September meeting of Lextran's Board of Directors. My name is Fred Combs. Chairing the meeting this morning is Mr. George Ward.
Thank you, Fred. Guests, Lextran staff and board, welcome to the September meeting, right?
Yep.
Okay. First thing we need to do is a roll call. So, Mr. Dowell.
Present.
Ms. Rogers, not here. Dr. Acapo, not here currently. Judge Thurston.
Present.
Mr. Songer.
Here.
George Ward is here. Ms. Borges Gonzalez is not here. And unfortunately, I heard this morning that Jessica Berry has had to resign from the board. So currently, we do not have a quorum, and when Dr. Acapo arrives, we'll be able to go into some of the business items on our agenda. So the next thing on our agenda is public comment on agenda items. Do we have anyone?
I didn't
Ms.
get the
Osgood?
agenda yet. I hadn't gotten stuck in there, or I would have gotten. But anyway, there are a few issues that are arising, and one in particular could really hurt keeping choice riders on. And the first somebody says, well, why don't they take an earlier bus? Sometimes that's not an option. When the day routes come to an end because you're shortage of drivers, and I understand that, they dead head into the transit center. So that's leaving people stuck. And that started happening a lot out on Nicholasville Road. Yeah, that gets people upset. And even if you don't have a job you gotta get to, you may have to get home to relieve your babysitter or get them from a daycare, etc. It's just a trickle-down effect. And that's why choice riders would leave. I think there's a simple solution that if temporarily, until you have enough drivers to run them the way they're scheduled now, is that you put a notice and just decide to deadhead those in temporarily all the time and put a notice on the schedule and the buses, make it public that because of few drivers, these routes will no longer go, carry passengers. At the end, be specific, but enough so they can understand it. And that way, people aren't getting mad at the drivers. And unlike me, a lot of people would just rather complain and be mad and not do anything. And anyway, the second is, I addressed this with him. Saturday was a problem because of prejudice. The man wouldn't even let somebody move his car under, and it kept the lady from being able to get through, so we were held up. And I'm a full believer that when the carts are empty, they need to fold it under the seat, the same with strollers. But my other issue, Brain, wake up. I had them written down. Is that, and remember Robin? Oh yeah, what I was going to say about him. What I told him. It boggles my mind when you don't have the every 20 to 20-minute run on Nicholasville Road during the week on the weekend, and especially when students are back, that they're putting the old, smaller buses on. And most people don't realize it unless they've gotten very large or stuck in one of these things, that even the aisle is wider on the newer buses. And there are, Jason, am I wrong or right, that there are more seats on the new buses? The one that's got the one I love that's got the self-loader in it.
It's just a little wider.
It's wider.
It's just a little wider because there's no seats.
Yes. So he thought maybe a feeder run would come behind it, and that would help the problem that occurred on Saturday as well. But yeah, those are my three issues. Oh, I made a note. I'm sorry, everything got soaked. Where is everything on the possibility of getting like some kind of service to those areas that people are complaining about that they can't get to because they've got a relative in a wheelchair or whatever? and it is difficult for some people to walk the distance to a route if they're even close enough. Where last place I lived had what was called dial-a-ride. And you dialed in the day before like you do Wheels, and they scheduled and came and got you and took you to your place. So I don't know if that would work. If you do that, please God, well, not the same taxi company that was so bad. And it might be feasible if you contract it out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Thank you for coming in this morning. I saw both Fred and Combs and Jason Dial both taking notes, so we will address things next month.
Robin Osgood.
Robin Osgood, okay.
Yeah, I go back.
Thank you, Ms. Osgood. Any other public comments? Okay, we have to skip approval of minutes. Chair's report. Harding, anything to add this morning?
Thanks, George. Good to see everybody. I'm coming to you live from a basement apartment in San Francisco. I'm not here for work, so thank you for managing the meeting in my absence. The only thing I have to note in the chair's report, some months ago, we as a board gathered to try to establish a time for a board strategic planning session. Due to the vagaries of the schedule and so many people on the board, we weren't able to do that. And as an alternative, what I've decided to do is to appoint a smaller strategic planning committee. Fred, I don't know if we've nailed down whether we need a resolution on that. If we do, we'll do one next month. And that would include myself as chair, Jamie as Ms. Rogers as vice chair, George, and Lady Borges Gonzalez. And we're pleased that all of them have agreed to join in this effort. We will meet at some point this fall, and then we will make a report out to the full board and encourage the full board's input on those findings. This is a way of setting up a broader strategic plan to be performed by management and staff at Lextran to guide our next 5, 10, 20 years of service. So looking forward to jumping into that effort with the support of our friends at TransDev. This is a part of our contract with TransDev, and so they are helping supply a facilitator for this effort. So anyway, just a quick update there, and Fred, if you can fill in on any resolution, whether one needs to be walked on today or held for the October meeting.
Yes, thank you, Harding. We will need a resolution for that, and we will prepare that for the October meeting.
Thank you.
All right, next up is our Lextran monthly performance reports and financials for the month of August.
So while Emily gets ready, a couple of notes here. LFUCG has partnered with Civic Lex to do an evaluation of boards and commissions in Lexington. There is a survey that's going around to board members now. We'll make sure that everybody has access to that. And I would imagine at some point over the next few months, Civic Lex will be here to join us for a board meeting as part of their study. Tomorrow, we are hosting the Public Transit Subcommittee of Kentuckians for Better Transportation. And on the agenda for tomorrow includes a preview of the 2025 general session and TARC's plan for service in the future. So we're excited to host that meeting. And lastly, the Week Without Driving event, which begins Monday, September the 30th and lasts through that week, October 6th. So we're encouraging folks to consider what it is like to live in Lexington and not drive a car. Now, transit, of course, plays a role in that, but also walking, biking, and means of mobility that is not a personal vehicle. So we encourage people to think about what that would be like and to experience that next week. So Emily, with that,
Excellent.
over to you.
Thank you. Good morning. So today we will be going over the August performance report. And we'll start with our mission. We serve people in our community with mobility solutions. August was quite busy. We had our 15th annual bus rodeo. Thank you for everyone who came and participated as judges and attended. So Michael Burnett won for the 6th time. Mr. Philip Cigar placed 2nd, and Teresa McConnon was our 3rd place finisher. And I do have a photo in just a moment to sort of show them. We had a maintenance review on August 12th through 15th with TransDev's Director of Maintenance. Our Student Success Program wrapped up this summer on the last day before FCPS started. We helped with UK for move-in the 18th through the 21st, and then full campus service resumed on the 26th. And then the football shuttles began on the 31st with the first University of Kentucky home game. And the pictures are unrelated but important. We had a robust month in August of training, and so that top picture there is one of the trainees and one of our trainers. And then Chris Withrow hosted a number of Lexington firefighters for some emergency training several times throughout the month of August. And here's just a quick photo of our winners there in the center, Teresa, Mike, and Philip, and then just some of the great camaraderie and the great time that we had for rodeo. So moving on to ridership for the month. You can see there, it did tick back up in August as we anticipated it to. Not quite where we were the previous year, but still up from there. And looking at the numbers a little bit here, there was a decrease from July of 2023, but interestingly, weekend ridership was up as well. You do not have the chart in front of you. It is in your packet, but on-time performance was down. So we just wanted to we've been looking into that. We know there was a disruption in mid-August when Fayette County schools got back in. The next week we had move-in at UK, which was pretty disruptive in that entire area. And then campus started, and it's my understanding that 35,000, correct me if I'm wrong, is the enrollment now. So the traffic patterns in the city got a little wild. So what we're doing right now is looking at the data. We're looking at data moving forward, so the last couple of weeks in September, looking at some historical data to identify, is this a disruption? Is there something else going on? And what we need to do moving forward. Are we going to even back out to a normal on-time performance, or are we, do we have other work that we need to do? So we're looking at a lot of stuff, trying to identify the routes who've been most impacted by that, and then steps that we need to do to move forward to remedy that. As far as safety is concerned, there were 5 preventable accidents this month. So our days with preventable accidents decreased. We did have a work comp claim, which increased the injury frequency rate and the days of lost time. That's another thing that we were digging into and looking for trends to see, you know, what do we need to do, what type of accidents we're having. There was nothing significant as far as a trend is concerned in that information, but looking to make sure that we do better moving forward. We operated 14,894 miles between road calls, and if you look at that fiscal year 24 year-to-date average, and then the miles between road calls this month, it is much higher. That is excellent. Again, kudos to our maintenance team. They hit 100% on their preventative maintenance, and they have definitely kept us running in a significant way in August. Okay. Any questions for me before I hand it over to Randolph?
Yeah, let me ask a question about customer service.
Okay.
And the commendation numbers
Mm-hmm.
seem to be higher than normal.
Mm-hmm.
I was curious if something triggered that.
Not necessarily, no. We did ask for we've had a feedback flyer in the vehicles for 4 months, but they haven't increased significantly over the last 4 months until August. So I'm not sure if there was anything, there was no sort of like campaign for commendations or something like that, but we have been trying to just make sure that people are engaged and they are able to give us feedback and communicate. Overall, our total feedback was pretty on par for what we anticipate, including those commendations.
The UK number enrollment is over 36,000.
36,000. Thank you.
That's a
Yes,
big number.
It was a very big number. Yes,
record
it was a
number.
very impactful week across the city.
So last year, we still hit 90% for the fiscal year to date.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's probably more to it than just UK, I'm thinking.
Yeah, and
There is a lot, I know that there's problems on Newtown Pike, right, at night,
Yes.
or in the evenings.
Yes, absolutely. And Newtown Pike is one of the routes specifically that we're looking at because it is struggling, and solving the problem while still meeting the need of the community is where what we're trying to split. You know, looking at the areas around campus, they were impacted during move-in and during that first week of school. So is that continuing, or is that something that, and looking back as well, is that something that's been going on but maybe not as intense as it was in August? I'm sorry.
In the first couple of weeks of September, didn't improve as much as what we wanted, right?
Correct, yes.
So an intervention might be required.
And then, operating expenses year-to-date this year are quite a bit higher than last year.
Mhm.
So I know there's a reason for it.
Yeah,
Why don't you
absolutely.
tell everybody else.
So July was quite expensive for us. The operating miles were down and expenses were up. We had the largest training class started in July, so we had 17 folks start. That put a strain on our training department. It put a strain on the staff to cover overtime and those sorts of things. And so that reflection is showing here. It did normalize in August, so everything sort of went back to the way that we would normally see it. But that's one of those things that when we noticed it, the team went through everything over and over. Kudos to Nikki's team. I think they went through it at least 5 times to make sure that everything was right and there was not a clerical error involved. So we did see that, and that was one of the things that we were monitoring for August to make sure that that came back down and there wasn't something else that we weren't anticipating happening.
Okay. Anyone else have questions? All right, we can move forward.
Thank you.
All right, on the paratransit side, the ridership numbers for the month of August came fairly in line with the prior year to date total ridership numbers. As you can see from the slide, there was a slight decrease by 2% compared to August of 2023. The total ridership numbers for the month of August came in at 14,668. Broken down into the weekday, that's 12,342 riderships, 1,362 riderships on Saturday, and 964 on Sunday. You also see that we traveled a total revenue miles of 94,358, revenue hours at 7,164, and trips per hour 2.05. Paratransit Wheels had 1 preventable accident for the month of August. That's 1 accident per 100,000 miles. 30 days with no preventable accidents. And for the paratransit statistics, we added from right to left the FY24 peak hours, which is from 10 to 11 a.m., 11 to 12 p.m., 9 to 10 a.m., all the way down to 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. And you'll see that it's pretty much out of sync because 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. is pretty much a top peak time. Over 1,400 trips in FY24 was between 10 a.m. and 11 a.m. And then moving over to the left-hand side, you'll see that we had in FY24 average user unique rider was at 1,132. And that is 2,408 unique users who are traveling in FY24. And out of those users, we have 152 registered to use the mobility app. And that was one of the things that we kind of advertised during the listening sessions that we did back in July. Just taking notes back from the prior board meeting, the paratransit statistics showing the top 5 locations that we pick up from the paratransit side, which would have been the Lexington Senior Center, The Dallas is in Leestown, the Dallas is in Tates Creek, Griffith Towers, and Walmart, North Park, and doing that. And then towards your right-hand side, we added a map to kind of show you the directions of the locations that we go to, having UK in the middle of it. And just to add, Leestown is the second top location of the pickups, and it is traffic on Leestown Road that's causing some problems of delays of service as well. For the top 5 locations on the drop-off side, you'll see some of the similar names, which you'll see Senior Center and Leestown again, and Tates Creek, but we also add in the Dallases on Richmond Road as well. Does anybody have any questions for the paratransit report?
Randolph, on the, go back one slide,
How do I go back in?
the drop-offs.
There we go.
Is there a big number difference between the senior center and the first dialysis clinic? I'm just curious. Or if they're pretty close.
The senior center was 14,397 trips, and the dialysis pretty much the same,
Okay.
maybe a 700 trip difference.
Yeah, just curious on that. Thank you. Any questions for Randolph? Okay.
That's all we need.
Good morning. We will look at the financials for August. We are the second month of this fiscal year. Our property taxes are about $90,000 more than this time last year, which is timing, but it's always good to see that number go up. Passenger fares were about $10,000 more than last year, so we're always watching that number closely. Federal funds, as I mentioned before, that's a timing issue, and we should have that taken care of in the next couple of months. State funds, we have sent invoices to the state, so we're expecting money to come from them soon also. Other revenue is down this month. That is due to the UK contract has not been signed by all parties yet, so we can't invoice, but as soon as that's done, we will back invoice to July. Expenses are pretty much under budget in every category except materials and supplies. Chris and I have gone through this. There were 3 buses that needed, I'm not an expert on maintenance supplies, but we can ask him, but there were 3 catalysts for buses. It's special parts for the low emissions, and there were 3 that were ordered in the month of August, which was about $48,000. Early in the fiscal year that we weren't expecting to do at this time, so that's caused the number to be over for the month. As I mentioned last month, the insurance for property and liability insurance came in a little higher than we expected, so that number is over. But everything else is looking pretty good for this time of the year. Travel and training is over due to us having trainings while UK was out, and that number will even out. We took a look at diesel fuel. We are using less diesel fuel than we were this time last year. The cost was $3.08. This month it was $2.45, and our average for July and August was $2.53. But our CNG remains at $1.10, and Chris has been looking at the numbers. We've been using more CNG than diesel, so that's always a good thing. But I'll be glad to answer any questions. Okay, our balance sheet for the month. Our current cash is at a good point for this time of year. We are about 10 million less than last year. Part of that's federal funds that we're waiting on, and we have a large accounts payable for the month of August, but that will take care of itself within the next month. But I'll be glad to answer any questions.
When you say the federal funds we're waiting on, they're not set up as a receivable?
No, they won't let us set them up as a receivable because the grant has not gone through the final obligation. It is formula funds, so there's no problem in getting it. It just hasn't reached the final stage yet, so we can't set it up as a receivable.
Okay,
But we will add any funds for last year will be added to this year,
okay.
which should be about $4 million. Any more questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nikki. All right, our action items we're not going to be able to do today for lack of a quorum. There is one, the task order for the microtransit feasibility study is a bit of an urgent need. So board members, be prepared that we'll probably have a special meeting of some sort in the not too distant future to at least approve that one resolution. Change order report?
No change order report this month. Nothing for old business, nothing for new business. On proposed agenda items, we will have the resolutions remaining from this month, as well as the review of our audit that we're going to go through in a moment in our finance committee, as well as the resolution for the planning subcommittee that Mr. Dow has talked about today. I believe that's all we have on tap for next month. And as a reminder, we will have a finance committee meeting starting at 11 a.m. There will be a different link on YouTube, if I understand this correctly, if anyone is watching online.
Okay, closed session we cannot do because we don't have a quorum. We are adjourned.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.